So if maintenance gets skipped, that's a pretty much a surefire way of your unit going down. Hello, my name is Leon. Obviously, there's a lot of technical things that customers won't know, that a technician will know, because obviously there's covers. For example, the evaporator coil, there's a cover there. They will not know if one of the evaporator fan motors is not running, but the other one is, but they can feel airflow. And then they can be like, oh yeah, all the fans are running. But in reality, one of the fan motors is failed. It's not running air through the coil. So what would happen is that you would have to open up the cover to realize if that's the case. Most technicians, when they open up the cover and they find out, one of the evaporator fan motors not running, obviously they're going to have to replace it, because if you don't have airflow through the coils, you're going to get an iced up issue. I can't tell you how many times I go to a job and the manager goes like, oh, there's always water on the floor on this unit. What's going on? Yeah, that's because one of your evaporator fan motors is not running. You could only tell by opening up the covers, which is a hard thing to do, to be honest with you, even for a technician sometimes. Yeah, one of your fan motors is failed, so it's not moving air across the coil, so it's not getting a good heat exchange, so that's why it's freezing over. And then over time, when it goes down, or when it stops, the unit stops, the ice melts due to the temperature rise. So that's usually one of the cases that I would see sometimes customers can't catch technically. So one of the common problems that the technicians probably see in the field is a dirty condenser coil. And those coils need to be cleaned because those are heat exchangers. So if you have dirt in the coil, it's not going to get a proper heat exchange. So therefore your refrigeration is not going to work, and therefore your unit's not going to temp. And when that goes on for a prolonged time, you have a failed compressor due to the fact that your compressor is working harder than normal. If you had a cleaner condenser coil, then there should be no problem. Vice versa. If your evaporator coil is dirty, you're not going to get good heat exchange there either. So you're going to have to clean the coils. So regular maintenance is the key to prolong your units all the time, all the time. So, which is understandable. In a business like this, managers, workers, they don't have time to check the unit. They don't have time to check if it's clean or not. They're just going, trying to make that money and then for their business. And when that happens, you just don't have time to take care of the smaller things. Technically, it's not a small thing, but it's like they're busy trying to make money, trying to make food, whatever it is. They don't have time to check mechanical stuff like this in a lot of situations. So it does get neglected and forgotten, but it's not because they want to. Yeah, maintenance. You should never ignore maintenance, because that is probably the #1 reason why the units fail in the first place. It could be other things, but in my experience, ignoring maintenance is one crucial factor of why units go down all the time. Well, it depends, right? So sometimes places that don't have airflow, or maybe more airflow than others, like they tend to get more dirty. If it's in a corner, it tends to get more dirtier than other units that are possibly maybe open. But the main thing is you can't neglect maintenance. You got to clean the coils. You got to check the coils, see if it's dirty or whatnot. It'll save you more money in the long run. Once every month would be pretty overkill, in my opinion. Once every 2 or 3 months would be fine if to check the condenser coil if it's dirty or not. Five maintenance tips. Obviously, clean your condenser coil. Make sure it's clean so that the heat exchange is there. The condensing unit is for rejecting the heat from the inside of the box. So basically, the coil needs to be clean. Do it with a bristle brush, not a metal brush, because if you do it with a metal brush, sometimes you can poke the copper and cause a leak. So a bristle brush, like a soft bristle brush, would be ideal, would be the best. That's 1. 2, just feel if the compressor is really hot. Feel the unit, you know what I mean? That often tells you what is going on with the unit in your pre-diagnostics when you get in there. That's one good tip. Check if your evaporator fan motors are blowing air. Sometimes you have to open up the cover but that's really hard to do sometimes. You got to take everything away, take everything out to remove the cover itself to just actually see if the evaporator fan motors are running. And if you have the cover out, obviously check the evaporator coil, because that's where it absorbs all the heat exchange that's going on there, the refrigeration side. So basically, obviously check if the evaporator coil is clean or not. If it's iced up, then you have a situation. So that's probably the best tip I can give. Like debris, maybe debris around it. Like let's say like here's the condenser coil, and there's like paper here and stuff like that. Believe it or not, since the air is moving this way, the debris and all the paper can like get stuck, and that can cause restriction of airflow as well. So, you know, cleaning the paper over here, when you clean the coil, make sure there's no debris or paper around the area, so you could just clean it, because later on, when you're gone, it could just, you know, the paper can just actually stick to the coil because the airflow goes this way. So always be mindful of what's around the unit, so you could just clean it up, so next time it doesn't cause issues for the unit. Clean the drain, there you go. There's one. Clear the drain so that it doesn't get the overflow, and then you get a service call saying, oh, listen, there's water inside the unit. What's going on? That's most probably because the drain is clogged.